This list is in no particular order except when I thought of it. So, the copper bulb. Normally, it has these triangle patterns which point towards this dark dot in the center. However, if you creatively use stairs, you can make the copper bulbs make a square pattern. But what's particularly useful about this is that you can actually turn on individual segments of it. Next, the chiseled tuff bricks have this really harsh lighting on them, and the polished tuff, to a lesser extent, has some lighting. If you place them like so, it actually perfectly lines up to where the dark bit of the tuff lines up with the dark bit of the tuff, and the light bit of the tuff lines up with the light bit of the tuff. So, if you create a checkerboard pattern, the lighting actually matches up. So if you want a checkerboard pattern, this is something you could use. Just like how you could use, better than before, brick gradients. So before, if you wanted just bricks, you'd have to just go from deep slate to stone, which isn't that bad, but now you can go deep slate to tuff to stone, because the tuff is actually a bit darker. So as you can see, this gradient looks particularly good. Next, grey shulker boxes. And you might think, well, these are not new. However, the chiseled tuff bricks has this squiggly sort of thing, which matches pretty well with the zigzag pattern of the light grey shulker box. So you can use light grey shulker boxes with chiseled tuff. This is a bit of an expensive build trick, but I think it looks pretty good. If we grab our wind charge, and we vault over, and we vault onto this platform, we have number 5, run. And it's called run because I've got to run. And what that was cool particles. It makes it look like I'm running super fast so that there's like wind behind me, and that was just some redstone. This is very niche. However, this is more just showcasing what you can do with the wind charge. If you grab a carpet, place it on top of some string, you can get the wind charge to hit the bottom of the carpet, and because the bottom of the carpet is super thin, you can actually see the wind particles when the wind charge hits it. Whereas if a wind charge hits like an oak block, because it's hitting the bottom here, the particles don't go high enough. But if you use something like carpet, you can actually utilize those particles. Unfortunately though, it is pretty expensive, because wind charges are not the easiest thing to get, because you have to get them from trial chambers. But if we continue with wind charges, you can see I've got this lovely waterfall. And what do waterfalls do? They crash into water at the bottom. However, you can see I've got some glass, but that's not very animated, it's very static. So if only this could be better, if only I had a minecart to work as a lever. And now you can use the wind charge particles to be like water crashing down. And you know, you may think, well, why do you have the glass there if you're using the wind charge particles? And that's because the wind charges from your dispenser, they need to be able to hit a block. I wanted to use glass panes. However, since the wind charge, it doesn't go completely straight, which means that time it missed, and then miss again. So you kinda do have to make this just a full block. You could use the barrier block, but obviously these aren't obtainable in survival. Which, on the topic of things you could do in survival, this uses redstone. I just have this redstone clock here. And so that minecart earlier that I used as a lever activates this line of redstone, which just pushes this piston over this redstone torch, which then activates this redstone line, which activates our dispensers here. If you wanted, repeaters are particularly good because they will slow this down, which, you know, it looks better to be firing super quickly, but maybe you won't be able to afford that, because I certainly wouldn't be able to afford that in survival. But what I can afford in survival is the kinda mid gradient. So the crafter, its side texture kind of matches with polished andesite, but then the side texture also has some oak in there. And so you can use that to create a gradient. It's a very niche gradient. Like, I don't know when you would want to be going from the stone to oak planks, but it's an option. And I've also used this front side. There's more of the grey on the front, whereas if you go to the side, there's more oak planks. So I have utilized that to where it's closer to the polished andesite. I've used the front face, and when it gets further away, I use the side, though I'm not sure why you would be transitioning between these two blocks. But what I do know is that the bottom of the crafter is actually a very lovely texture. Like, look at that texture. We can use it as a roof, but you can also use it as a wall because the crafter can face upwards. Unfortunately, you can't make the crafter be upside down, which means you can't use this as a floor, but that's not the only tip. This is like a black, sort of like dark grey metal, which actually works really well with the cauldron, the anvil, and the like middle part particularly of the observer. Editing Sham here, I just thought it would also work well with the top half of the blast furnace. Pretend I put the blast furnace there, because I'm infallible and I would never forget such a thing. And to a lesser extent, it works well with the netherite block, except the netherite block is a little bit more purplish, and to an even lesser extent, the smithing table. The smithing table is too blue to, like, perfectly match it. However, they do have the same vibe. So you could use these together, just they don't match. But if we come up here, we have the vault. So the vault is a block that spawns in the trial chambers, and unfortunately, you can't obtain this one in survival. So this kind of is only for creative players, because the bottom of the vault, look at that texture. That's such a good texture. It's so good. Like, look at this. It works so well, and it works well with these dark metal textures. But unfortunately, you can't obtain the vault in survival, which means that you're never really going to be able to utilize this unless you're in creative. But if you are in creative, that'll be helpful. Just like the trial key. This one is a bit of a stretch, but you can use the trial key as a key. So you could use it in an item frame and do some redstone to make the door open when, like, the key is facing towards it, and then it doesn't open during all these other states, and then it's facing towards it and the door opens and then it doesn't. You could also use this key to just throw it into a hopper, and maybe that opens the door. However, I didn't actually do that. This is just a regular hopper. But you could use the key as a key if you wanted. Here is my very bad redstone, but our next one is the meditative painting, which is this painting here. It just looks like a desktop background to me, and I hope you see that too. So we've got a keyboard, and we've got our computer where I'm using the meditative painting. What I'm also using is these bad fake windows. This doesn't really look like a fake window. This looks like a fake window, but it looks really bad. And this, in my opinion, is the best way to do a fake window. So essentially, what I've done here, the difference between this one and this one, is that this one, I've covered up more of the painting. So this painting is 4 blocks by 4 blocks. However, I've only made 2 blocks by 2 blocks visible, because it means when I'm moving, it reveals more of the painting and covers up some of the painting. So it gives that, like, illusion that there's actually something back there. Why you would want a fake window and not the actual background, I'm not sure. Maybe your friend built a very ugly house and you don't want to see it. So this is the option for you in that case. Anyway, this toaster. Almost. So I've made a kitchen here, and the heavy core is a block which was added purely to craft the mace, let's be honest. For some reason it's not rotatable, and also it always exists in this bottom state, like you can't place it in like the middle of a block. But anyway, the heavy core kind of looks like a toaster, except this little slot here is in the wrong place. We have this square pattern on the top, and then the slots are on the sides, which is a real shame, because this could almost be a toaster. This is so close to being perfect as a toaster, but, you know, you're gonna have to just kind of pretend it's a toaster if you want to use it as a toaster. But for me, it's good enough. I'd probably use this build trick myself. What's also okay is the bolt armor trim is a new armor trim added. That's why it's got this copper background, because I believe you find it in a trial chamber. That's where you find everything this update, except this face. Well, not except this face, including this face. So this is a netherite helmet with the bolt armor trim using some quartz, and it looks like a smiley face. Now, I don't know how useful this is, but if you want a smiley face, the bolt armor trim is how you can do that. But what you can also do, scraped pottery sherd can be used to make scraped pots. And scraped pots are perfect to store all of your lovely axes in all of these pots. And something else that's lovely is the Gusta banner pattern, is a pattern which can be applied to banners. Wow, who would have known? You can use it as an arrow. This is what the pattern normally looks like, but you can apply a line down the middle using a loom, and then you can cover up the bottom with the background color, which creates an arrow. And what's the arrow pointing to? That the chiseled tuff and the chiseled tuff bricks are not rotational. No matter how you place them, they just won't rotate, which is really annoying. Hopefully they fix this in like a 0.1 update, but what I hope you do is that you use the Gusta banner pattern to make a drill, because this kind of looks like a drill. If I didn't know what the breeze was, I would probably think that this is a drill. That could be like the handle of the drill, and this is the drill of the drill. But then also the same can be said for the Gusta pottery sherd, because the banner patterns have sherd equivalents. Next, we have the flow sherd and chiseled tuff. Now this spiral pattern is very similar to the spiral pattern seen on the chiseled tuff, and that's probably because these are both blocks found in the trial chambers. So if you want to use some of these like earthy colors with some tuff, the spiral sherd will probably help you. But what else will help you is that the flow banner pattern kinda reminds me of a chorus plant. I don't know why. But it could probably look like something else. Leave a comment. What do you interpret the flow banner trim? The flow banner pattern. What do you think that this looks like? Maybe you think it looks like a lollipop or a snake or something else. Leave it in the comments. But what you shouldn't leave in the comments are sticks. The breeze rod kinda looks like a frozen stick. How is this useful? Great question. Because I was thinking you could maybe use it as like an icicle, but there's no good way to place the breeze rod like under an ice block. But what isn't an icicle is number 21. The crafter kinda looks like a face. Look at that. And tell me that doesn't look like a face. There's an eye right there, and an eye right there, and this is like a mouth. Or maybe it's a mustache. The dispenser, dropper, and the observer all look like faces, and so people have used these before for robots. So what you can do is you can use the crafter as another little robot face. But that was 121 building tricks. Hope you found these useful. Some of these are a lot more useful than others, but I hope you enjoyed. Leave some feedback in the comments. Goodbye. Beep boop. Oh. So much fun. Hello. I don't normally do green screen footage for my outros, but I have this lovely 121 shirt that I don't know if you I don't know if you care, but I care, and I think it's a very nice looking shirt.